We have these good hoochie mama dresses.
She'd always followed her own path.
Kelly was known to be a force to be reckoned with.
You look beautiful, and it's she was a big personality. Everyone loved her.
She was an inspiration to people. She was my rock.
She touched lives. I was proud of her.
Until it all came to a tragic end.
I saw the door open, the woman get thrown out.
She was shot.
I was devastated. I was in shock.
Everything just kind of went blank.
This can't be happening. Not one of mine.
Her death leaves the community desperate for answers.
Was this a hate crime?
My sisters die on a daily basis.
But can police bring her killer to justice?
You wanna go for a ride?
He's portraying himself as a good Samaritan. But what's the story here? There's definitely more to it.
I was angry. I was furious.
They got in my car and they wouldn't get out.
This individual that appeared to be female, when they spoke, was a male.
It's always the gay panic defense.
December 7th, 2018. Detroit, Michigan. Once a powerhouse of American industry, the Motor City is struggling to reinvent itself.
Detroit's a great town, but it's a gritty town. And we've experienced some very serious housing and economic crises. So it's really been trying to bounce back from all of that.
Detroit is making a comeback. Our city is on the up and coming.
But every reinvention has setbacks. Early that Friday morning, Detroit 911 receives an urgent call from the vicinity of Palmer Park.
Palmer Park is a historical park in the city of Detroit, located in the University District.
The Palmer Park area in the night can be a little bit of a sketchy place.
This woman needs help.
The caller says there was a woman lying in the street.
I think she's hurt. Just get somebody out here.
It was approximately 5:55 in the morning.
Police are on the scene within minutes.
My victim was laying on the ground, face up, on the corner.
She was grasping what appeared to be a metal spike or like a piece of scissors.
And she's bleeding from what appears to be a single gunshot wound.
It was her left side right here, like in the armpit area.
She's gone.
The individual was deceased on scene.
According to the ID the police find in the purse, the dead woman's name is Kelly Stowe.
"36-year-old Kelly Stowe always had a strong sense of self."
Kelly was a force to be reckoned with.
She had her own thoughts, her own mind, but she was very special.
Not only was she beautiful and poised, but she was also generous, kind, loving, supportive. The community loved her.
But it had taken determination to get there.
Kelly wasn't born a woman.
He was born Tristan. He was a grandma's baby, the light of everybody's life, spoiled rotten.
We're a small family, but we love strong. And we're there, for each other, because we realize that we're all we have.
And even from a young age, everyone realized that Tristan was different.
The earliest I remember, I know like at 7, she would come home and, be crying, kids teasing her. I didn't really realize how much it affected me, but it was like, no, it's nothing wrong with you. God don't make no mistakes.
Throughout high school, Tristan struggled to fit in.
She got into sports. She started off with track. She did pretty good. Then she got into football, and me and her dad made her stay with football. She hated it. We found out years later she hated football, but she stayed with it.
She was well known for her athleticism.
She got a partial scholarship to college and everything.
But her heart was never truly in it.
It was rough in college. She ended up doing 2 years and then decided to come home.
And when she came home, she finally started to embrace her true self.
We talked about careers, what you want to do. So she was always in fashion and makeup and things of that nature. So we found the International Institute for Design and Technology. She enrolled there. It was like, oh gosh, she finally found a school where she felt like she fit in. Thank God. From there, she just flourished.
That's where she really found herself.
It was then that Tristan became Kelly.
She was like, mother, when I'm a woman, I feel empowered. I feel strong. I feel beautiful. And it was like, wow. I respect and love her for the fact that she accepted her truth.
Nobody should hold nothing in if it's detrimental. Just be happy and live, you know?
But it was when Kelly discovered the world of ballroom that she really found a home.
The ballroom scene started in New York, where the Black and Latino community decided to come together and put on their own pageants and their own celebrations of who they are and their identities, and created a space that was just for them.
When we were watching TV and saw people at BET Awards and walking on the red carpets, in our minds, we knew that we won't be able to do that. So we created our own space where we awarded ourselves and gave ourselves praise. So that's why it's important. It's ours.
When it came to the ballroom scene, Kelly came alive. People could recognize her from a mile away. 6'4" stature, beautiful, confident.
She was a winner. When she stepped on the floor, she won. And if she didn't win, like, you knew she was there.
But Kelly was more than just a fierce competitor.
Girl, try this one on too. Stop playing.
She was also a role model.
I didn't know how to do hair and makeup when I was younger, so of course she taught me. This is a good braid of hair. What kind of braid is this, honey?
She did my hair, she dressed me.
She gave me the motivation. She let me know that I could do it.
She was my rock. She was my big sister, but she also was my mentor.
But now, the special woman who commanded the ballroom floor lies dead on a Detroit street corner.
She succumbed to a gunshot wound. Other than her personal effects, there was one spent shell casing.
And while Kelly died clutching half of a pair of scissors in her hand, there is no sign of a gun.
It's definitely a homicide.
But could it be more than that?
We've got one female deceased. Can you go ahead and start major crimes in the ME?
A transgender woman had been murdered.
It is so dangerous for them just to be who they are.
Was this a hate crime?
On to shine in the world of ballroom.
She loved it. That seemed to bring her a lot of joy.
It is the best thing in the world when you are finally able to be your authentic self.
So we have these good hoochie mama dresses. She was bold, beautiful, and funny, and intelligent. She was warm, and everyone loved her because she always had a loving smile on her face. She was a big personality.
And she was a role model to those around her.
When people are not afraid to be their authentic selves and be out there, that starts to break down barriers.
She felt comfortable living her own life and her own truth.
But now Kelly's life has come to a sudden, violent end.
She is dead on a Detroit street corner, killed by a single gunshot wound.
So investigators really needed to know if Kelly was the target of a hate crime.
A hate crime is anytime you intentionally assault somebody just because of their sexual orientation, their social status, their religion, their ethnicity.
A lot of people take for granted the little things that are really unsafe for my community. It's not safe for every trans person to take the bus or go to the gas station to get a pack of cigarettes. The daily things that we take for granted are some of the reasons as to why my sisters die on a daily basis.
Living this lifestyle, we have lost a lot of people, and it puts you in a scary place.
It's being normalized, killing trans women.
For the moment, the detectives aren't sure what motivated the murder, or if Kelly was even shot on the street corner.
This could have been someone that's dumped out of a vehicle. This could have been an old windshield casing.
However, since the victim is trans, the detectives have to take that into account.
At the onset of any investigation, you have to follow the evidence, right?
And based on where they found Kelly, the detectives have reason to believe the crime could be motivated by anti-trans prejudice.
Trans women of color, particularly, congregate in the 6 Mile and Woodward area, which is Palmer Park area in Detroit. It's been like that for quite a while. There is an LGBT center there.
It's the only place in the city that will take them in. No homeless shelter will take in a trans person in the city because most of them are faith-based. So there's just no support system for this community.
To survive, many turn to sex work.
When I was younger, I was doing sex work, survival sex work. I didn't like it. I don't like it. It's very dark, creepy, scary. If you're there, know that you feel in your mind there's no other choice.
Nobody in their right mind wakes up and says, this is what I want to do for a living. They don't have any other option to have the things that they need in order to survive, whatever that is, whether that's food, whether that's access to hormones, medication, a roof over their head, a phone to be able to call their loved ones.
The detectives suspect sex work could explain why they found Kelly's body near Palmer Park.
It has been historically a place where you find prostitution.
If someone is looking for a target, if they're looking to murder a transgender woman, the Palmer Park area would be the perfect place to do that.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that her death was a result of a hate crime.
Hoping for insight, detectives start knocking on doors around the park.
They're looking for more witnesses, right? People who were in maybe the park area, but it seems like nobody saw anything.
A lot of times, the community doesn't want to step forward. A lot of times, it's mistrust of the police. They don't want to be targeted themselves or retaliated against. We can do what we can, but they still have to live in that community at the end of the day.
However, the canvas does produce one thing that could be useful.
There was a church across the street that had video.
But before the detectives can get a copy of the video, 911 dispatch gets another urgent call.
The call came in about 6:30 in the morning.
I like to report a shooting.
It's coming from a gentleman who says that he experienced a robbery in the area earlier that morning.
They got in my car. They wouldn't get out. Give me money, get out.
He said that he had to shoot them.
All new on TV One. Get ready for the most real,
A 22-year-old man laying in cold blood.
most ruthless revenge.
Detectives investigating the shooting that killed Kelly Stowe have just been informed that dispatch received a 911 call from a man who says he may be responsible.
He said that he was driving early morning on his way to work and got flagged down by someone right outside of Palmer Park.
It looks like she was in distress. I slowed down to see if she needed any help.
The caller, 46-year-old Albert Weathers, says he'd stopped to see if she needed assistance.
We learned that he was a pastor of a church in Sterling Heights.
He does also say that he was a form of law enforcement because he was an armed guard at the water authority. So he had a little bit of training.
You okay, ma'am? Oh, God, I think you're fine.
He said that he was surprised when she had a low voice, like a man.
But he says it's what happened next that really took him by surprise.
Give me your money.
The woman attempted to get in the car and rob him.
She pulled something out of her purse. It looked like a knife.
Give me your money. Get out.
He says that he'd instinctively gone for his gun.
In addition to being a security guard, he has a concealed carry permit.
Out now! It just happened so fast.
He said that he was aware that the gun went off. He didn't know if he had shot the person.
I wasn't even aiming at her.
He said she fell back out of the car, he yanked the door closed, and then drove off.
It scared me to death.
He said it wasn't until he calmed down and started thinking straight that he called 911.
When the detectives return to the precinct to reach out to Albert, he agrees to come in and give them a statement.
He wasn't too hesitant about telling his story.
Thank you.
While they wait for him to arrive, word of Kelly's death spreads through Detroit's tight-knit trans community.
In our community, news travels fast. Like, I found out immediately.
When I got that call, I was devastated. I was in shock because I literally talked to her a couple days before.
The news also reaches Kelly's family.
A friend of hers had called, and she said, well, on the news, they had this story that a trans woman was killed, and I think it was Kelly.
I guess everything just kind of went blank for a little while because I couldn't just get that together. You know, she's dead.
I was just like, this can't be happening. Not one of mine. You know, that happens to other people.
While Kelly's family reels from the news of her death, Albert arrives at the station to give his formal statement.
He appeared to be very forthcoming.
I'm just, still shaken up by the situation.
Yes, sir.
He starts the interview by telling the detective what happened that morning.
He told us that he was on the way to work and realized that he didn't have enough gas.
I needed, to stop at the gas station.
He went to a gas station that he was familiar with in the area and comes to the intersection of Brush and 6 Mile. That's when an individual on the corner waved their hands like this, as if they were in distress and needed help.
And so as I raised the window down, that individual unlocked my door and proceeded to get in my vehicle.
When asked what happened next, he said this individual immediately requested money from him.
And that's when this individual that appeared to be female, but when they spoke, was a male voice.
I'm trying to help you.
He stated he refused to give money and requested that she exit his vehicle.
And from what he said, she wouldn't get out.
Albert says that's when Kelly had pulled something from her bag.
Something metal. It was metal.
He cross-drew his firearm, instructed Kelly to exit his vehicle again.
You gonna pull a gun? And actually, instead of being scared by the pistol, the woman actually just started yelling.
And then they kind of was coming toward me. That's when the gun went off.
He stated that she collapsed to the ground and he closed his door.
He drove away and went to work.
You called the police when you got to your job?
Not when I got there, no.
He explained that he was all round up and needed to calm down before he called the police.
He spoke articulate. He was to the point. He dialed in on this conversation when he spoke to you to make sure you understood.
He was portraying himself as a good Samaritan when he was met with not only a hostile person, but with the threat of being robbed.
But the detective can't help but wonder if Albert is telling the whole story.
So he just happens to stop and help a transgender woman in an area that's known for prostitution?
People going to this area, they know what they're looking for.
After taking Albert's statement, the detectives do a little digging into the alleged Good Samaritan.
He has no record. Everything is clean.
He was a family man. He was an upstanding citizen, a husband, a father, all the things that you think a pastor should be.
And they were able to find the conceal and carry license that he claimed to have.
The detectives also look into Kelly's criminal history.
Kelly didn't have much of a record either.
There's certainly nothing to suggest that she would have attempted robbery.
What's the story here? There's definitely more to it.
Hoping to find out, the detective's next move is to follow up with the man who made the original 911 call.
He didn't see the actual shooting or heard the shooting, but he saw a man push a woman out of a car.
And as it turns out, that's not all he saw.
And some man got off in the driver's side, snatched the phone out of her hand.
Detroit detectives investigating the shooting that killed Kelly Stowe are following up with the witness who first called 911.
And he tells police he's just been passing through the area on his way to work that morning.
I got me to go upstairs, and all of a sudden, it would come out with somebody being thrown outside.
He didn't hear any gunshots, and he also didn't see any arguing.
The car had stopped, and there's a realized to me. I saw the door open, the woman get thrown out.
He could tell that the woman had a phone in her hand. He could see the light from the screen.
Then the witness says he saw a man get out of the driver's side of the car and cross to the woman on the pavement.
They snatched the phone out of her hand, and they got back in the car.
They then leave heading towards 75 area, which would be east of that location.
You said you saw him walk around the curb? Where?
After the man drove away, he saw the woman on the street, and it was clear that she was in pain.
He says he then drove slowly past the woman to check on her.
I could tell they were moving, like wincing. So that's told me to call the emergency police to get somebody over there.
Yeah, there's a woman that needs help.
But he had no idea she'd been shot.
Did you hear any gunfire?
No weapons. Like I said, I couldn't tell since she was moving, so I didn't see anything done to her.
Did you see him assault her or assault him at all? Any kind?
Just nobody else to the vehicle. None that I can tell. I just know from the passenger side, she was thrown from the car.
Parts of what the witness says fits with what Albert has already told detectives.
He said that he shot her, and he kind of just let her drop out the car.
But the witness also saw things Albert hadn't mentioned.
Albert never said anything about Kelly having a phone.
So now we have two stories happening.
There may be a way for detectives to uncover the truth.
During initial canvass, detectives noted that there was a church nearby that had cameras that covered the area where the incident had occurred.
I had one of our video people extract the video from the church.
The video is grainy, but it does show Albert's car pulling into frame.
It was dark, but you could clearly see that the car stops, and you can see the dome light coming on in the car, and you can see there's some sort of communication going on in the vehicle because it's just sitting there.
Then a moment later, a man does get out of the driver's side.
It's very grainy video, but you do see that he then approaches the passenger side. You see a muzzle flash.
Could that be the supposed phone light that the witness saw?
Kelly's essentially dumped out of the car, left in the street, and he goes back around, gets into the driver's side, and pulls off.
However, while the video doesn't quite match the eyewitness statement, it doesn't confirm Albert's account either.
Mr. Weathers stated that a woman flagged him down as if she needed help at that corner.
But in the video, Kelly was already in the car when Albert pulled up to the corner.
Which makes me believe that he picked her up at a different location.
The video also provides a possible clue about where Albert picked up Kelly.
The video was very grainy. It was dark, but you could most certainly see the car actually came from a street that ran perpendicular to 6 Mile.
They're coming from the direction of the nearby LGBT center.
A lot of trans people go there that experience homelessness, that need non-perishable items, a food box, and different resources.
Detectives suspect someone at the shelter could know more about Kelly's death, if they're willing to talk.
The trans community, for good reason, has in the past not really trusted law enforcement.
Sometimes they're sex workers. They don't want to deal with the police.
Right this way.
But this time, the detectives are approached by someone from the trans community who is more than willing to talk.
They really had decided that they had had enough.
I came forward out of rage. I just was thinking about my friend.
She is a survival sex worker, and she knows Kelly.
And she also knows Albert.
You want to go for a ride?
I just knew, like, this is the person that did it. This is the person who killed my friend.
She said it wasn't a robbery. This was on purpose.
That killed Kelly Stowe have just been approached by a woman named Bridget who says she knows Albert Weathers, the man who admitted to shooting Kelly in self-defense.
He picked me up from time to time.
I was really scared for my life, but I also knew that somebody had to speak up.
She has known Mr. Weathers for a long time.
Yeah.
I had known him before I even hit the age of 20, and I'm 35 now.
And Bridget says Albert is no stranger to the women that work that area of Detroit.
He comes to the Palmer Park area and picks up prostitutes.
Albert was a client?
Not for a while, but yeah.
Why not for a while?
It just wasn't worth it.
My experience with him was negative.
There was always a conflict at the end of any of the sex work.
Whatever they agreed to, he wanted to change the price of the services.
I walked away a lot of times from him with no money.
She also tells police that Albert's behavior is aggressive.
It's like he was living a double life. I never would have thought he was a pastor. I never would have thought he had a family and a wife. He was very manipulative and verbally abusive. Like, he was a monster.
So you saw Albert pick up Kelly before?
Yeah. She had been on dates with him. I won't be able to say how many, but I knew that she was familiar with him.
That just changed everything and completely blew his story out of the water.
Bro, we'll be in touch.
I don't see you out.
After talking to Bridget, the detectives turn back to Albert.
He sticks to his story at first.
Well, I already told you, I saw her on the corner.
What if I told you that we had evidence that you're lying?
What evidence?
I explained we have video. The video was grainy, but it showed that no one was walking in that area at that corner.
Okay. I picked her up. We had an argument, but I didn't mean to kill her.
He said he pulled the trigger by mistake.
I just wanted her out of my car.
Why don't you just call 911? I was scared. Scared of what?
He's a pastor, and he didn't know how this was going to be perceived, that he was picking up a trans woman for sex.
As long as we continue to villainize trans women, we're going to continue to be murdered. We're going to continue to have higher rates of domestic violence because of the social stigma. The reality is a lot of them rather love us in private and kill us in public than have anybody know of their association with us.
But while social pressures and prejudice created the circumstances that led to Kelly's death, it was Albert who pulled the trigger.
I think that it had more so to do with
Get out. Where's the rest of it?
Mr. Weathers not willing to pay for some service.
Where's the rest of my money at? Stop playing with me. I asked you to get out. I'm not going nowhere. You're going to give me the rest of my money that you owe me. You got the right one today.
I'm not gonna say it was premeditated, but I just felt like he already was ready for that type of situation.
I don't know what you walking over here for. I'm not going nowhere. You're going to give me the rest of my money. Out.
He pulled the trigger and shot her one time. And then he just left and went to work, like a normal day.
The way that he left her in the street and drove away, it's sickening.
I don't think he saw us as people. I think he saw us as a lot of people do, a fetish.
It became pretty clear that he wasn't the upstanding pastor and father and husband that he had claimed to be.
Mr. Albert, stand up.
After the interview, the detectives charge Albert with the murder of Kelly Stowe.
I was like, thank God. I don't have to go through life wondering who did this and why.
I was relieved, but I was more relieved that he wouldn't hurt nobody else, so to speak, because there's a lot of young trans ladies down there.
I was excited, but I also was anxious to know what was the next steps.
The prosecutors were just as anxious.
At the time, I was a prosecutor in Wayne County and working in the homicide division. So Prosecutor Worthy and Dana Nessel, who is now our Attorney General, put together the Fair Michigan Justice Project. They asked if I would come in to prosecute, to start tackling the violence in that 6 Mile Woodward area against the trans community.
It has changed astronomically my community's view on law enforcement, interacting with law enforcement.
Our trans community, I think, is feeling a little more comfortable coming forward.
But then, just 6 months after the arrest, there's a development in the case that could undo all that progress.
Albert Weathers was granted a bond hearing.
When you're charged with murder, typically you are not granted bond.
But the judge in this instance sets Albert's bond at $100,000.
Only 10% has to be paid. So with $10,000, Albert's a free man.
I was angry. I was furious, to be honest. They literally just let a murderer go.
46-year-old Albert Weathers has been released on bond after his arrest for the murder of Kelly Stowe.
During that hearing, the judge repeatedly asked the prosecutor what would be the harm in allowing him to be back on the streets until trial.
But the judge says Albert is a pastor, doesn't have any priors, and is not considered a flight risk.
Kelly was a victim in this case, and the defendant threw her out like she was trash and drove away and left her to die.
The prosecutor goes on to try to remind the judge that he waited an hour to figure out what story he was going to come up with to tell the police. The judge then says he understands all of that. But how is that a threat to other people?
I was pretty upset about it because the judge, in this case, stated on the record that they did not believe him to be a danger to the general community. So this was another instance of danger to the trans community not registering.
We were just all looking like, huh? Like another slap to the face, another like, y'all don't matter.
I was just angry. Oh my God, why he need to be out on bond? He may go and mess with somebody else.
This is not the first person that he got physical with, and I just feel like he's gonna do it again.
I'm next, is what I thought. Because I was the only person who came forward to identify him.
After making bond, Albert returns to his job as a security guard. and to his church.
He even officiated at a wedding.
It was crazy. It was more like manipulation.
I wanted to go to his church. I wanted to rally like a group of people together just to go to his church on one good Sunday, right? Because I wanted to know if his congregation really knew who was sitting behind that pulpit.
Albert spends the next 4 years out on bond awaiting trial.
With the COVID, the pandemic, everything got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
It really had everyone asking, is he ever going to be on trial?
I had to just say, okay, God, revenge is yours, because it's going to come to an end eventually.
Finally, in 2023, Albert's attorneys reached out to the prosecutors about a possible plea deal.
I feel that we had a good chance of, obviously, a conviction. And defendants, when they see an onslaught of evidence, they make decisions based on that.
I think we all know that Albert Weathers had a history of soliciting transgender prostitutes. He was already facing pretty serious allegations, and I don't think he wanted all of that out in the open.
The prosecution also worries that a jury might believe Albert's claims of self-defense.
It's the gay panic defense that they want everyone to buy into. It's always the gay panic defense.
A lot of it comes down to what you can prove. You don't know what a jury's gonna do.
It's possible he wouldn't serve any prison time at all.
In July of 2023, Albert pleads guilty to second-degree murder and a felony firearm charge.
The felony firearm is an additional charge that goes with the commission of a crime while using a firearm.
In exchange for his plea, the judge sentences Albert to 8 years for murder, with an additional 2 years for the firearm charge.
I was not surprised with the plea. He knew he was guilty. We knew he was guilty. They knew he was guilty. The judge knew, but that's not a sentence.
Of course, you know, you hear murder, you want 20, 25 years, but the prosecutor, she was very good in explaining how that system worked. So once she broke it down and when it came back to what they said, I was okay with that.
For murder, too, for someone who has no prior criminal history, these numbers are actually within the realm of what they could get after a trial.
Everyone would have liked to see him serve more time, but I also think after so long, I think everyone was glad to see that justice was being served in some way.
I'm glad that finally this was an end and he admitted guilt.
The family does have a little bit of closure that Mr. Weathers is sitting down in prison, and hopefully he will understand why he's there.
And while that hardly makes up for the loss of Kelly's life, those that loved her are dedicated to ensuring that others don't suffer the same fate.
I didn't get a chance to save my friend. Like, I'm an advocate in the community now.
What happened to Kelly and what has happened to so many other transgender women of color who find themselves in survival sex work is that they couldn't find work elsewhere. So the lesson for all of us is to just tear down these barriers.
Allies, let's create businesses, let's create opportunities. If we all sit at a table, right, we can build.
It's a fitting tribute to the woman who meant so much to so many.
She touched lives, her dignity, and her desire just to help others in her community.
Let me look good whatever you wear.
Will continue to live on.
Remember the name Kelly Stowe, and know that she was an inspiration to people.
A successful entrepreneur vanishes without a trace.
think everyone was bewildered that she had just disappeared so suddenly.
People were shocked for her to go missing. Nobody expected that could happen.
A family's desperation becomes a city's call to action.
I keep calling.
It became something different. It became more serious than a missing person.
The ensuing investigation will uncover a twisted trail of secret passion and domestic strife.
This was a secret relationship. One that they kept hidden.
There was the public perception of this person, and then there was the monster that came out behind closed doors.
This guy is running around and he's not being truthful.
And when the spotlight finally illuminates the sordid truth, the feeling of betrayal will leave the community reeling.
That's the most brutal thing that a human being can do to another human being.
I feel crushed, devastated. I feel dead. Part of me is completely dead because I lose so many pieces.
Wednesday, February 27th, 2008. Police officers in Malden, Massachusetts are embroiled in a desperate search. The target of their search is a 41-year-old hair salon owner named Norma Gilles. She was last seen at her salon 2 weeks earlier.
She was just gonna go next door to a shop to get coffee, and she never returned.
Police are canvassing the area looking for Norma's silver Toyota Corolla.
As detectives drive up Faulkner Street, just a couple blocks from Norma's salon, they spot something.
You know what? I think this is our car.
It was parked, legally parked on the side of the street.
Run the place.
Detective Eddie and I got out at the same time.
Yeah, this is it.
I walk up to the car. He's by the passenger side. I looked in the car. First thing I saw was her purse.
They immediately called for a tow truck, and the vehicle was towed to the Malden Police Department for examination.
Hey, it's Montino. Yeah, we got the car. Yeah, we should go ahead and tow it in so we can take a close look at it.
Hey, Ray, what you got?
Right now, just the purse.
As police process the car, they look for any piece of evidence that might shed light on Norma's whereabouts.
Detectives, you might want to take a look at this.
What they find triggers an entirely new search. A search for a killer.
Everyone's worst fears were realized the moment that they opened up the trunk.
But as one mystery reaches a climax, another is only beginning. One that will bring the community in Malden face to face with evil.
Shock. Everyone, shock.
Everybody was doing all they could, and it just was such a mystery.
Norma Gilles was born in the suburbs of Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 1967, one of 7 children.
Norma's the youngest of them all, and she always the baby in the family, the last one of my parents.
Even as a little girl, Norma was known for her intellect and her ambition.
She's very, very intelligent, very smart in school. When she was little, if she doesn't get an A or 100 or something, she'll be mad.
As a young woman, Norma decided she would have a better chance of success in a country with more opportunity.
She immigrated to the United States, as did her brother and sister.
Norma eventually settled in the city of Malden, Massachusetts in 1999, where she felt the transition to American culture would be eased by fellow Haitian immigrants.
So Malden is north of Boston, about 10 miles north of Boston. It's very diverse in terms of its population.
There are more than 100,000 of Haitians living in Massachusetts.
Malden's thriving expat Haitian community proved to be the perfect place for a budding entrepreneur like Norma to realize her dreams.
She wanted to open a beauty salon.
Under Norma's care and guidance, the business soon took off.
Norma has always wanted to have a business to beautify people, to make people pretty.
In the Asian community, a beauty salon is more than a beauty salon. That's where people go sometimes to hang out. That's where people come to ask for advice when they've got some problem. It's really more than sitting down at a beauty salon.
Most of the people you see there, they are not really doing business. They come in there to socialize because they know you.
Norma quickly became a pillar of Malden's Haitian community. So much so, everyone referred to her by her nickname.
So, Mama, do you remember that cute guy I was telling you about?
What guy? Norma. No one ever called her Norma. Everyone knows Norma as Mama. That's her nickname, Mama.
I was on a date the other day.
Norma was really caring person, like the mother to everybody.
You're a beautiful, strong woman. You deserve better than that.
A generosity of spirit that was rooted and inspired by Norma's deep religious conviction.
Norma was an extremely religious person. She would compose words to songs and poems for her church. It was just a significant part of who she was. Everybody described Norma as a ray of sunshine, that she just brightened every Wednesday that she came into contact with.
Beautiful, successful, caring. It was no surprise that Norma caught the eye of many a young man. But it wasn't until the year 2000 that love finally came knocking on her door.
Oh, you scared me, Christian.
I'm sorry.
Norma starts dating a fellow Haitian immigrant named Christian, whose family owns a hair salon as well.
They introduced him to Norma, and then they fell in love and they got married.
I was just wondering, do you want to go downtown to that new restaurant?
Downtown restaurant? Why?
Because you're looking gorgeous and you're my wife, and I would like to take you out.
My new dress?
Yes, I love it.
It's for church. I'm going to church, Christian.
Once the newness of the relationship wore off, it was clear that Norma and Christian had different priorities.
You can't miss one day of church?
Not today, Christian, no. I made a commitment.
Miss John didn't like the fact that she spent the whole Sunday away. He didn't appreciate that. Norma have to go to church, come home, and then go back again in the afternoon. I don't think Christian understand that because that's the way we grew up. We grew up very religious.
In 2004, the couple divorced. In the years that followed, Norma poured her heart and soul into her job.
Norma always wanted to be the best. That's the kind of person she was.
Over the years, there were rumors in the community that Norma may have found new love. But getting a straight answer from her wasn't always easy.
Norma was a reserved person. She's a type of person, she will come over and talk to you about a business. So when you're starting to open a door to something else that related to her, she closed it.
But in a tight-knit community like Malden, secrets are bound to come out. And in late 2007, that's exactly what happened.
You'll come back and take me to church in the morning?
Certainly.
Norma met a new person in her life, Eve North, and he actually had been someone who was part of their social circle. He was a nice young man who worked at a full-time job, and they had a nice dating relationship.
With a second chance at love, this already successful woman was poised to have it all. But on the eve of Valentine's Day 2008, a seemingly clear path took a wild turn. One that would send Malden's tight-knit Haitian community reeling.
This was a big mystery in the community.
Norma left the salon and just said, "I'll be right back," and walked out. And her coworker never saw her again.
After years of searching, Haitian immigrant turned successful salon owner Norma Gilles found who she believed was the man of her dreams.
Norma begins this great new relationship with Eve in 2007. He was Haitian like her and seemed like an amazing guy who was really making her happy.
But then, on the morning of February 13th, 2008, Norma Gilles steps out of her shop on a busy Wednesday morning with hardly a word to her employees.
Norma went to work that morning, pretty much like any other morning, and took care of a client, and then stepped out for coffee.
I'm going for coffee. Be right back. All right, Mama.
And that was the last time anybody saw her.
The next day, multiple calls to Norma's phone go unanswered.
People were trying to reach Norma throughout the day and were unsuccessful.
Norma's brother Jules begins to worry. He calls the salon repeatedly throughout the day. That afternoon, his call is finally answered. The person on the other end is 48-year-old Leslie Cheramond, the owner of the store adjacent to Norma's salon.
Leslie?
They actually shared space because she kept her products in his store that he sold for her hair products and other beauty products that she didn't have room for in her salon.
Is Norma there? I need to talk with her.
Oh, no, she's not back yet.
Leslie, come. I said, please pass me Norma, because I want to know why she did what she did. He said, oh, no, yeah, she's not back yet. I said, what you doing there? He said to me, yeah, I'm just cleaning.
Well, if she happens to pop up, have her call me immediately. I need to talk with her.
Okay, thanks.
After another hour passes with no word from Norma, her brother Jules pays a visit to Norma's salon. What he finds is alarming.
A sign was on the door of the shop saying closed for a week.
Hello?
My little cousin said, Jules, have you seen Norma? I said, no, I went to the store. I see it closed for vacation. He said, yeah, we passed by there too. That's when I saw it.
For Norma to close up shop with no explanation is completely out of character.
In this community where everyone knew her so well and she ran a business, no one could really explain it. Norma would never just take off a week without notifying clients ahead of time.
Jules steps next door in hopes that Norma's neighbor, Leslie, might have some information.
Have you heard anything, seen anything strange or anything?
Yeah, last I heard, it was a U-Haul outside.
The guy was driving, she was getting to U-Haul, and then she told me that she's going to Florida.
Leslie's mention of Florida jives with a plan Norma had quietly been discussing with her family in the days and weeks prior.
We talked about Florida, but I know she was saying that she wanted to go, but for her to leave and just leave a note and tell anybody, just that sit well.
Norma already asked me she's going to leave the state. She's going to Florida. But she was supposed to leave at the end of February. Yeah, that year.
Jules reaches out to some family friends in Florida, but they inform him they haven't seen or spoken to Norma.
After 3 or 4 days, Mama is not in Florida. So now everybody stopped to worry.
It's Leslie Chermond that finally makes the suggestion that Jules has been resisting.
I don't know, you may want to contact the police.
It's just that, well, you know what, the best thing to do is, I don't know anything, you know, go to the police and see what you can find out.
The border probably was hoping that Norma will be probably ring the bell and said, here I am. I wasn't that far, but deep inside, I'm sure that he was feeling that something could have gone on.
On February 23rd, Jules formally reports Norma missing. Police immediately begin searching for her.
They were looking for her car, so they had the make and model and registration number. So they put out through the area police departments to be on the lookout for the car.
2 hours later, a detective came in. They said, well, they just came from Norma's house in Lane apartment. There's no disturbance. So it doesn't seem that she slept there, but the house, like nothing happened.
With every attempt to find Norma coming up empty, police must consider the possibility of criminal activity.
What you got?
Her bank account, there was no withdrawal of money. She was not communicating with anyone on her cell phone, and we had the cell phone company helping us with those records.
I get nothing. There's no debit card purchases, there's no withdrawals.
I guess it's time to make some phone calls to the people, see what we can find.
Investigators concentrate on those who had contact with Norma on a daily basis.
When investigating a case such as this, where a woman disappears and the police are concerned that her disappearance was not voluntary and that harm may have occurred to her, they absolutely want to look at the closest people to her.
But as this missing person investigation heats up, investigators will unearth evidence from the unlikeliest of sources.
She had a lot of friends, family. Mr. Sherman got on the radio and made appeals to people to see if we could find her, as well as her brother. He was trying to investigate her disappearance himself. Everybody was concerned.
It has been 10 days since 41-year-old salon owner Norma Gilles disappeared without a trace in Malden, Massachusetts. After filing a missing persons report, Norma's brother Jules takes his search for her directly to Metro Boston's Haitian community via a popular radio talk show.
Everyone's worried, so I ended up going to a Haitian radio station to tell them, to give them the description, the plate number of the car, if anyone see the car and everything.
My show is about everything. Haitian news, funny news, and domestic news, any type of problem. It's basically an open air program.
The results are immediate, as community members investigators reach out to both Jules and the police.
When I go on the radio, whenever people hear me talking, that's when a slew of information comes. Slew of information.
The one interesting, there are people calling pretty much every day asking, is there anything done yet? What's going on with the case? Are you guys gonna find her?
All right. Thank you.
But investigators quickly realize that in this particular community, it isn't easy to separate fact from rumor.
Empty. Not quite. Somebody called in and said she had problems with the boyfriend. But they didn't want to come in for questioning. The Haitian community, in this part of the country anyways, is a very tight-knit community. And it's very hard to break into it in terms of investigation, in terms of getting their confidence or trust. They had a very difficult time getting interviews with people.
With this tight-knit Haitian community proving hard to crack, police reach out to Norma's friends and employees. They are particularly interested in learning more about her new love interest, Eve North.
How long have they been seeing each other?
Fairly recently, I believe.
I spoke to another employee named Judith. During our conversation, she actually mentioned a guy that Norma was actually dating, which was Eve.
Thank you so much for coming in.
I know Eve. That's the guy I went to high school with. I had his number on my phone.
Police are curious to know why Eve hasn't shown the same level of concern about Norma's disappearance as other friends and family members have, so they bring him in for questioning.
How you holding up?
Not as well as anybody who could be holding up during these kind of circumstances.
Almost immediately, Eve says something that raises a red flag.
She says that he had driven by the salon, and I think it's about a week later. He had driven by the salon, and when he drove by the salon, he noticed that her car was parked a few streets away. He never reported that to anybody, when everybody else was concerned that she was missing. Why you didn't call and tell us? I mean, we were looking for the car. It was all over the radio.
Well, hold on. I didn't know that she was missing. I mean, I just thought she was upset with me and I'm returning my calls. Eve thought that Norma was forwarding him.
All right. Fine. If you need anything else, please let us know as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
Authorities wonder if Eve is being completely forthcoming, but with no proof that he knows anything more about Norma's disappearance, they have no choice but to release him. Thankfully, within hours, police catch another break.
I got an anonymous call. Someone called and says, all right, the car was parked on Cross Street in Malden. I met with Detective Henley, and I told him, all right, this is what's going on, so we need to go out and look for the car. And Cross Street runs into Main. So as we left, I told him we're going to start from Main Street and work our way down. As we're driving up Faulkner Street, and he said to me, Detective Henley says, Mitch, here's the car. That's the car right there.
They spotted a car just a couple of blocks away from Norma's salon.
The car's proximity to Norma's salon yields a crucial detail. Since her disappearance, it appears the car had been moved.
Where the car was found, we could have just looked over and saw it. The car was never there. We drove up that street probably 3 times doing the investigation.
When the Malden police saw the vehicle parked on the side, they got out, they looked around.
Hey, Mitch, I think we got a purse.
They could see through the front passenger's window that there was a woman's pocketbook on the floor at the front seat. In order to preserve the evidence that may be on the car, it was towed and then professionally processed.
The State Police Crime Lab comes in and they process the car to go through like fingerprints and DNA and all that.
As technicians scour the car, they have no idea they're about to make the discovery everyone has feared.
Detectives, you may want to come take a look at this. Looks like we got it.
Norma was found in the trunk of her car, wrapped in large, dark, black trash bags that were tied up with duct tape. She was in a fetal position. Her entire body was covered in trash bags, with the exception of one part of her lower back was exposed.
Police notify Norma's brother, Jules, with whom they've been working so closely.
They said, Jules, we found the car and we found your sister, and she's not alive. She was in the trunk of the car. I'm sorry, Jules, she's not alive.
In an instant, the search for Norma Gilles has morphed into a murder investigation. And the key to finding the monster who murdered her may very well lie in Norma's personal effects.
Norma's pocketbook, finding that was really a gold mine because women don't go anywhere without their pocketbook.
between a community's crime rate and the number of immigrants who reside there. In fact, studies show that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are far less likely to commit crimes than U.S.-born residents. Two weeks after Norma Shield vanished into thin air, her body is found, bound in garbage bags in the trunk of her own car, parked just a few blocks from her salon. The community that loved her is stunned.
People were shocked because Norma, she's a very nice girl, very respectful. She never had any issue about it.
I called my mother. She said, I already know the truth, I know. You don't have to tell me. I'm getting ready to come. And it was hard.
Hey, Detective. Yeah. Look at something real quick.
When the medical examiner's report comes back, it reveals that Norma's death was even more gruesome than they imagined.
There was evidence that she had been raped multiple times. She had some bruising on her face and on her neck, and her clothes had been taken off of her and then put back on, and not correctly. Her last minutes of life were horrible.
As word gets out, a close community accustomed to keeping its skeletons in the closet gets a rude wake-up call.
I think it was a blow to the Haitian community. I think it was incredibly painful for people to realize that this could happen in their midst.
Given the often personal nature of a crime such as rape, authorities rushed to bring Norma's boyfriend, Eve North, back in for questioning.
Being a police officer, you can't put anything past anybody.
A background search on Eve has also turned up a prior arrest.
The last time he got arrested was for domestic violence. He did some time.
You got priors. And everyone knows that my mom was having boyfriend trouble and you are reported as a boyfriend. And you have priors.
Bitch, come on, man. You know me. You know I wouldn't do something like this.
All right. When was the last time you saw her?
On the 13th, we spent the night together.
The night before, he had stayed in with Norma, and they had had consensual sex, and she had driven him to work on Tuesday morning, which was the last time he saw her.
During the interview with Eve, we asked him where he was, and he told us he was in Cambridge. We went over and talked to a couple of people. They actually corroborate what he told us.
Eve North's seemingly airtight alibi forces detectives to reconsider his possible involvement in Norma's death.
Eve wasn't the person of interest. We eliminated him from the investigation.
But the interview with Eve also uncovers a new twist to the story. One that's about to turn everything investigators know on its head.
Look, you guys got the wrong guy. Me and Mama Boo was just dating. But her boyfriend, Leslie Sharman, that's the one you need to be looking at.
Leslie Sherman owned the store adjacent to Norma's salon. This was the same man who was so concerned with Norma's whereabouts in the aftermath of her disappearance.
Up until now, detectives thought Norma's relationship with Leslie was strictly business. But Eve North explains the bond between Leslie and Norma was extremely intense.
They met at this church. Leslie was a singer in the church.
Norma liked to write songs. Norma was writing songs for that choir at the church she was involved in. And then Leslie was the guy who played the guitar and piano in that church. At some point, their friendship turned into a love affair.
They had a romance, moved in together, shared an apartment, and then ultimately came to be closely connected in a business sense when he moved into the store, the space that she rented right next to her hair salon.
Eventually, Norma and Leslie's relationship faltered, and they broke up.
My understanding about their relationship, it was a good relationship at the beginning, but that within a very short period of time, Norma noticed that Leslie had very possessive and controlling personality, and that began to make the relationship very difficult for her.
According to Eve, Leslie became so volatile towards Norma that she had to file a restraining order against him. 3 months later, Norma and Eve began dating. At first, the situation with Leslie seemed to be resolved, but Eve reveals to Detective Montina that he and Norma recently had another run-in with her angry ex.
Eve said that he was sitting in a car one afternoon with Norma when Leslie spotted them and approached them in the car.
He was acting all crazy.
He pulled up and came up to the side of the car.
What the hell is this?
And demanded to know who he was and what he was doing with Norma.
Leslie, what do you want? What are you doing here?
You don't stand between a man and his woman, okay? You know what happens when you stand between a man and his woman?
Please, that's my friend, okay?
This ain't over.
Leslie was very jealous and very angry that Eve was dating Norma, and suggesting that almost that he and Norma were still a couple, and that Eve was getting in between them.
He just got really upset.
Eve's story sounds like a promising lead, but detectives know they have to tread carefully.
Eve could potentially be a jealous boyfriend himself, and that's not always the most reliable source.
But soon, a clue found in the pocketbook in Norma's car gives police reason to believe Eve's story.
Hey, check this out.
Norma carried a lot of important information in her pocketbook. It included the restraining order against Leslie. It also included a court document for her to appear in court that week in a trial against him.
When investigators pull the case file, they are shocked to learn just how dangerous Leslie had become.
The catalyst for their relationship changing was he came home one night and demanded sex.
Leslie, not right now.
Norma said she wasn't interested, and he threw her on the bed and pinned her down, and she ended up going to the police and brought charges against him for attempted strangulation and assault and battery.
That's what this upcoming trial was about, this alleged assault. Leslie was ordered to vacate their apartment, but he was still allowed to operate his business, which was right next door to Norma's.
With evidence against him mounting, authorities decide it's time to sit down with Leslie Sharamond and determine once and for all if he was the monster behind Norma Shields' murder.
Daddy had put it together. That's what kills me every single day.
Domestic violence is actually a little bit of a problem in the Haitian community. The guy would tell them, all right, if you talk to the police and tell them that I abused you, I beat you, you're gonna get deported. So they're scared. It's a sign of fear. They don't wanna do anything with it because they feel like, all right, if I get deported, when I go to Haiti, it's gonna be tough for me because Haiti's really tough. That's why it's really kind of hard with the domestic violence in the Haitian community.
February 27th, 2008. Just hours after the body of Norma Shield was found in the trunk of her car, Malden police are investigating fellow Haitian immigrant Leslie Sharamond as the prime suspect. In addition to running the business adjacent to Norma's, Leslie was also her ex-boyfriend and had allegedly assaulted Norma in the final days of their relationship. According to records uncovered by detectives, Norma had filed a restraining order against Leslie, and an assault trial was pending against him.
He was allowed to, run his business, which was adjacent to hers on Salem Street, but he was to vacate the apartment and to have no other contact with her except what was necessary in their business relationship.
When police speak with Leslie, he doesn't deny the fact that he and Norma had a turbulent relationship.
Leslie, I'm Detective Headley. This is Detective Montina. I'd like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. From what Leslie actually told us when we were in there, they had a fallout. But he was trying to patch things up.
We are aware of the restraining order. You sure it have anything to do with her murder?
Oh, no. I loved her. She got in the U-Haul the day she disappeared.
They were trying to work things out, but Norma would not listen to him. He said when Norma walked by, he tried to go out and talk to her, and she said she didn't want to talk to him, and jumped in the truck and left.
Leslie Sherman was quite contradictory. He didn't tell anybody the same story, whether it was Norma's brother or the police who were investigating, or even people in the salon after her disappearance.
I told you, she got in a car and she left.
She got into a car. I thought you said she got into a U-Haul.
Yeah, right. U-Haul.
After a few questions, I was like, this guy is not being truthful. He's lying.
We'll be in touch.
Authorities know it will take more than suspicion to bring murder charges against Leslie. They subpoena Norma's phone records, hoping to pinpoint her whereabouts at the time she went missing.
Detectives looked at the unanswered calls that came to Norma's phone during the dates of her disappearance.
Her cell phone was, emitting signals to a cell tower. And as a result of that, they can create kind of a circumference of area where the person may be.
As detectives analyze the data, they discovered Norma's phone was pinging off a tower in Everett, Massachusetts on the morning of February 14th, which was nearly 3 miles away from her salon in Malden. But that's not all.
Found out that Leslie Sherman was living in Everett.
This was a day after Norma's disappearance, and it was clear that that cell phone was on the move. And that cell phone was found in the car when they discovered the body.
Which suggests to detectives that not only did Leslie murder Norma, he used her vehicle for several days after committing the crime.
He drove the car back and forth from his house in Everett to Malden.
It's enough for police to get a search warrant for Leslie's home and shop.
The investigators executed the search warrant in Sherman's shop, and they found a key to Norma's car, a key to her salon, and in a closet they also found trash bags of the same kind that had been used to wrap her body, as well as duct tape and blood on the floor.
It's a shocking development, one that implicates a pillar of Malden's Haitian community in an act of unspeakable brutality.
Leslie was driving Norma's car with a body in the trunk of the car and going to church while the body was still in the car.
Leslie belonged to a church, and he played the guitar at the church, sang at that church, while Norma's body was in the trunk of the car.
That shows you what kind of animal that it was.
An arrest warrant was issued, and we went to Everett, where he was living, and arrested him.
I was surprised he was arrested. I was shocked by the news.
But if justice is to be meted out, prosecutors will have to withstand one last startling claim from Leslie and his defense team.
It's not every day that a murder defendant takes the stand, so no one had any idea what was going to come out of Leslie's mouth.
Nearly 1 month after Norma Shields' tragic death, store owner and ex-boyfriend Leslie Sharamond is in custody for murder in Malden, Massachusetts. Police have handed the case to state prosecutors, who are hard at work bolstering their case against Leslie.
We began to build the forensic evidence that we would use at trial.
Analysis of Norma's autopsy report and the search of Leslie's properties reveal a significant DNA link.
During the investigation, when we processed the crime scene at his store on 7th Street, we found her DNA in the place.
They found evidence of blood on the toilet seat in the bathroom.
A sample of Leslie's DNA is also found on Norma's body.
When they did DNA, they found that Leslie was actually chewing up a piece of gum, and during the struggle, that gum actually fell in Norma's bra, and they found his DNA in there as well.
In June of 2009, more than a year after Norma's murder, Leslie Sharamond's trial gets underway at the Middlesex Superior Courthouse. Prosecutors take the floor and unfurl for the jury a story of a violent man consumed by jealousy.
What we learned about Leslie Sharamond, he was a very jealous, controlling man. And when he could no longer control Norma, and when he saw she was never going to come back to him, and that she was moving on with her life, he just couldn't stand it.
He think that he owned Norma, and Norma didn't have a life on her own. Everything depends on him. It's him first. So if he cannot have Norma, she might as well be dead.
Norma not only had a new man in her life, she was also intent on testifying against Leslie at the upcoming trial for his alleged assault. So in effect, Leslie had two motives to kill Norma.
Prosecutors assert that on the morning of February 13th, 2008, Norma stepped out of her salon for coffee and soon crossed paths with Leslie.
Hey, is your new boyfriend gonna pay that rent you owe me? Just playing. Would you come in and talk?
Ask him what to eat.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
He actually called her inside. She came in. They were talking. During their conversation, something happened.
Why don't you want to work things out?
I didn't come here to talk about her. They argued, and that argument led to his attack on her and his murdering her.
You said 5 minutes.
Don't touch me. There was evidence that she had been raped multiple times. There were also bruises all over her neck and upper body from where she had been struck and ultimately strangled to death. And it was at that hour, early morning hours of February 14th, that he moved her body from his shop and put it in the trunk of her car. He then drove the car a short distance to Faulkner Street, where the police found it 2 weeks later.
For Norma's family and friends, it's a litany of horrors too painful to bear.
I couldn't hear the details anymore. I couldn't hear it exactly. I couldn't bear because I didn't know. Her mother was crying so hard. They had to take her out.
When the prosecution rests, Leslie's defense team argues that the notion of jealous rage is inaccurate. In fact, they say, Norma and Leslie's post-breakup relationship had smoothed out over time.
There was no independent evidence that anything violent had happened. In fact, to the contrary, they worked very closely over the next few months and year, where they had businesses side by side. So the evidence was, at least to the objective observer, that these two were both friendly.
The defense's assertion seems to sway the jury, but then their client makes the bold and potentially risky decision to take the stand in his own defense.
Defendants like Leslie are discouraged all the time from taking their own defense.
I think it's always a difficult prospect for a defendant to get up and testify with a prosecutor waiting to cross-examine.
In cross, prosecutors zero in on the issue of how Leslie's DNA ended up on Norma's body.
His defense essentially was that the day before, they had had consensual sex in his store, and that she wouldn't have changed clothes from one day to the next, and that the chewing gum came because she loved chewing gum and he would share his gum with her, and it must have just, gotten stuck on her shirt.
On June 17, 2009, both sides rest. Justice for Norma is now in the hands of the 12 jurors.
The jury came back after, I believe it was 2.5 days of deliberation, guilty on all counts of murder in the first degree and aggravated rape.
For Norma's friends and family, the verdict is met with relief.
Extremely happy. That's the way I felt at that time. You didn't put somebody on earth. You have no right to take his or her life.
They're like, in tears inside the courtroom. It was pretty good that, he was found guilty, knowing that, they got the justice for the family.
A dumb, stupid, ignorant, murderer, criminal. That's what I know he was a criminal.
At Leslie's sentencing hearing on June 22nd, 2009, Norma's loved ones make sure the judge is aware of how beloved she was and how her murder left a huge void in all of their lives.
At the sentencing, Jewel was able to speak, and he brought Norma to life in the courtroom. It was all about who Norma was alive, and it was very beautiful, and it was very moving, and it was about how they would all remember her in her life, and not in the horrible, violent way she died.
I want people to remember Mama as the kind, friendly, good-hearted girl who loved church, who loved Jesus.
Mr. Chairman was sentenced to life without parole. That is the statutorily mandated punishment in the state of Massachusetts for murder in the first degree.
Leslie deserved what he got, and he should have getting more punishment. So we're waiting for another justice from God.
But justice on earth will only go so far in bringing peace to broken hearts.
What he did was heinous, and nothing is going to bring Norma Gilles back. And that's a huge loss for her family, her friends, her church, the whole community. And it's really quite sad.
A successful entrepreneur vanishes without a trace.
I think everyone was bewildered that she had just disappeared so suddenly.
People were shooting for her to get missing. God, nobody expected that could happen.
A family's desperation becomes a city's call to action.
I keep calling.
It became something different. It became more serious than a missing person.
The ensuing investigation will uncover a twisted trail of secret passion and domestic strife.
This was a secret relationship, one that they kept hidden.
There was the public perception of this person, and then there was the monster that came out behind closed doors.
This guy is running around and he's not being truthful.
And when the spotlight finally illuminates the sordid truth, The feeling of betrayal will leave a community reeling.
That's the most brutal thing that a human being can do to another human.
I feel crushed, devastated. I feel dead. Part of me is completely dead because I miss so many things.
Wednesday, February 27th, 2008. Police officers in Malden, Massachusetts are embroiled in a desperate search. The target of their search is a 41-year-old hair salon owner named Norma Gilles. She was last seen in her salon 2 weeks earlier.
She was just gonna go next door to a shop to get coffee, and she never returned.
Police are canvassing the area looking for Norma's silver Toyota Corolla.
As detectives drive up Faulkner Street, just a couple blocks from Norma's salon, they spot something.
You know what? I think this is our car.
It was parked, legally parked, on the side of the street.
Run the place.
Detective Eddie and I got out at the same time.
Yeah, this is it.
I walk up to the car. He's by the passenger side. I looked in the car. First thing I saw was her purse.
They immediately called for a tow truck, and the vehicle was towed to the Malden Police Department for examination.
Hey, there's Martina. Yeah, we got the car. Yeah, we should go ahead and tow it in so we can take a close look at it.
Hey, Ray, what you got?
Right now, just the purse.
As police process the car, they look for any piece of evidence that might shed light on Norma's whereabouts.
Detectives, you might want to take a look at this.
What they find triggers an entirely new search, a search for a killer.
Everyone's worst fears were realized the moment that they opened up the trunk.
But as one mystery reaches a climax, another is only beginning. One that will bring the community in Malden face to face with evil.
Shock. Everyone. Shock.
Everybody was doing all they could, and it just was such a mystery.
Norma Gilles was born in the suburbs of Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 1967, one of 7 children.
Norma is the youngest of them all, and she always the baby in the family, the last one of my parents.
Even as a little girl, Norma was known for her intellect and her ambition.
She's very, very intelligent, very smart in school. When she was little, if she doesn't get an A or 100 and something, she'll be mad.
As a young woman, Norma decided she would have a better chance of success in a country with more opportunity.
She immigrated to the United States, as did her brother and sister.
Norma eventually settled in the city of Malden, Massachusetts in 1999, where she felt the transition to American culture would be eased by fellow Haitian immigrants.
Malden is north of Boston, about 10 miles north of Boston. It's very diverse in terms of its population.
There are more than 100,000 Haitians living in Massachusetts.
Malden's thriving expat Haitian community proved to be the perfect place for a budding entrepreneur like Norma to realize her dreams.
She wanted to open a beauty salon.
Under Norma's care and guidance, the business soon took off.
Norma has always wanted to have a business to beautify people, to make people pretty.
In the Asian community, a beauty salon is more than a beauty salon. That's where people go for fun to hang out. That's where people come to ask for advice when they've got some problem. It's really more than sitting down at a beauty salon.
Most of the people you see there, they are not really doing business. They come in there to socialize because they know you.
Norma quickly became a pillar of Malden's Haitian community. So much so, everyone referred to her by her nickname.
So, Mama, you remember that cute guy I was telling you about?
What guy? Norma, no one ever called her Norma. Everyone knows Norma as Mama. That's her nickname, Mama.
Norma was really a caring person, like a mother to everybody. You're a beautiful, strong woman. You deserve better than that.
A generosity of spirit that was rooted and inspired by Norma's deep religious conviction.
Norma was an extremely religious person. She would compose words to songs and poems for her church. It was just a significant part of who she was. Everybody described Norma as a ray of sunshine, that she just brightened every Wednesday that she came into contact with.
Beautiful, successful, caring. It was no surprise that Norma caught the eye of many a young man. But it wasn't until the year 2000 that love finally came knocking on her door.
Oh, you scared me, Christian.
I'm sorry. Norma starts dating a fellow Haitian immigrant named Christian, whose family owns a hair salon as well.
They introduced him to Norma, and then they fell in love and they got married.
I was just wondering, do you want to go downtown to that new restaurant?
Downtown? Restaurant? Why?
Because you're looking gorgeous and you're my wife, and I would like to take you out.
My new dress?
Yes, I love it.
It's for church. I'm going to church, Christian.
Once the newness of the relationship wore off, it was clear that Norma and Christian had different priorities.
You can't miss one day of church?
Not today, Christian, no. I made a commitment.
Christian didn't like the fact that she spent the whole Sunday away. He didn't appreciate that. Norma have to go to church, come home, and then go back again in the afternoon. I don't think Christian understand that, because that's the way we grew up. We grew up very religious.
In 2004, the couple divorced. In the years that followed, Norma poured her heart and soul into her job.
Norma always wanted to be the best. That's the kind of person she was.
Over the years, there were rumors in the community that Norma may have found new love. But getting a straight answer from her wasn't always easy.
Norma was a reserved person. She's a type of person, she will come over and talk to you about a business. So when you're starting to open a door to something else that related to her, she closed it.
But in a tight-knit community like Malden, secrets are bound to come out. And in late 2007, that's exactly what happened.
Will you come back and take me to church in the morning? Norma met a new person in her life, Eve North, and he actually had been someone who was part of their social circle. He was a nice young man who worked, had a full-time job, and they had a nice dating relationship.
With a second chance at love, this already successful woman was poised to have it all. But on the eve of Valentine's Day 2008, a seemingly clear path took a wild turn. One that would send Malden's tight-knit Haitian community reeling.
This was a big mystery in the community.
Norma left the salon and just said, "I'll be right back," and walked out. And her coworker never saw her again.
After years of searching, Haitian immigrant turned successful salon owner Norma Gilles found who she believed was the man of her dreams.
Norma begins this great new relationship with Eve in 2007. He was Haitian like her and seemed like an amazing guy who was really making her happy.
But then, on the morning of February 13th, 2008, Norma Gilles steps out of her shop on a busy Wednesday morning with hardly a word to her employees.
Norma went to work that morning, pretty much like any other morning, and took care of a client, and then stepped out for coffee. "I'm going for coffee, be right back." "All right, Mama." And that was the last time anybody saw her.
The next day, multiple calls to Norma's phone go unanswered.
People were trying to reach Norma throughout the day and were unsuccessful.
Norma's brother Jules begins to worry. He calls the salon repeatedly throughout the day. That afternoon, his call is finally answered. The person on the other end is 48-year-old Leslie Charamond, the owner of the store adjacent to Norma's salon.
Leslie?
They actually shared space because she kept her products in his store that he sold for her, her hair products and other beauty products that she didn't have room for in her salon.
Is Norma there? I need to talk with her. No, she's not back yet.
Leslie picked up. I said, "Please pass me Norma, because I want to know why she did what she did." He said, "Oh, no, yeah, she's not back yet." I said, "What you doing there?" He said to me, "Yeah, I'm just cleaning."
Well, if she happens to pop up, have her call me immediately. I need to talk with her.
Okay.
Thanks.
After another hour passes with no word from Norma, her brother Jules pays a visit to Norma's salon. What he finds is alarming.
A sign was on the door of the shop saying closed for a week.
Hello?
My little cousin said, "Jules, have you seen Norma?" I said, "No, I went to the store. I see it closed for vacation." He said, yeah, we passed by there too. That's when I saw you.
For Norma to close up shop with no explanation is completely out of character.
In this community where everyone knew her so well and she ran a business, no one could really explain it. Norma would never just take off a week without notifying clients ahead of time.
Joel steps next door in hopes that Norma's neighbor, Leslie, might have some information.
Heard anything, seen anything strange or anything? Yeah, last I heard, it was a U-Haul outside.
The guy was driving, she was getting to U-Haul, and then she told me that she's going to Florida.
Leslie's mention of Florida jives with a plan Norma had quietly been discussing with her family in the days and weeks prior.
We talked about Florida, but I know she was saying that she wanted to go, but for her to leave and just leave a note and tell anybody, just didn't sit well.
They were a young couple, forging a bright future.
He promised the world. She wanted to have that home and have that family.
But in an instant, this small town would be ripped apart.
Some workers had found the body.
She was shot 3 times. She was laying there, her eyes was open. It devastated me.
At the heart of the crime is a slew of secrets and lies.
He had 2 girls in love with him. She would do whatever she needed to do to ensure that relationship.
And the truth will reveal a love gone wrong.
What did you do? She wanted to be loved. She loved him till she died.
April 27th, 2017. It's a quiet Thursday morning in Marianna, Florida, a town of just 7,060 miles inland from Panama City.
I always ask people that come here, how did you find Marianna? You know, because it's so small.
What industry there is in Marianna is mostly packing and shipping produce from the farms in the local area.
It's 8 a.m. at a packing plant just north of town. 2 workers are arriving for the day's shift when one of them spots something in the field behind the warehouse.
He was pulling in, and he said, look like somebody been dumping trash out here or something.
They thought it was a trash bag, which is not uncommon. People throw everyday trash out on somebody else's property.
But as the men walk over to pick up the garbage bag,
Yo, hold up.
they make a horrifying discovery.
Upon closer look, they realized it was a trash bag. It was actually a body.
She was laying there, her eyes was open.
The workers call 911.
Yes, it's an emergency.
And when deputies from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department arrive on the scene, they quickly realize they're dealing with a homicide.
We did determine that she had been shot multiple times.
There's no ID on the body. But when Captain Scott Edwards arrives on scene, he's horrified to realize that he already knows the victim's name.
I knew her mom and stepdad, but my wife knew the family better than I did.
From the scene, Captain Edwards calls his wife, Cherie, who's also an investigator with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department.
Mrs. Edwards, I received a phone call from my husband, Captain Edwards. He advised me that there had been a homicide.
Yeah, we found the body. It looked like it's Pincella's daughter.
Scott, are you sure?
I'm sure it's Keisha Smith.
25-year-old Keisha Smith and her family were known to almost everyone in the small town of Marianna, Florida.
Everybody pretty much knows everybody in Marianna.
Her mom and her dad were both hardworking people, both very friendly people, very well liked in the community.
They were nice people, church-going people. If you needed anything, they would help you out.
The same was true of Keisha, who was known for her welcoming smile and loving heart.
She embraced everybody. I don't think she saw any wrong in anybody. To know her was to definitely love her.
Keisha's greatest love was her 4-year-old son, Caden.
Keisha would do anything for Caden. She adored him and spoiled him right. Played with him every day. I'm gonna get you. And I got you.
Keisha was an awesome mom. Whatever he needed as a parent, that comfort and that support, that's what she gave Caden.
Caden's father wasn't in the picture.
It was very hard, Annie. I can tell that it bothered her. She always wanted to have a father figure for Caden.
But the single mom did everything she could to create the best possible life for herself and her son.
She got into the medical field. She became a certified CNA, and she worked at the convalescent center.
The residents, they loved her. Keisha was big on helping people.
A busy work schedule and a little boy at home didn't keep Keisha from dreaming of one day finding Mr. Right.
She was looking for someone to love her. True love.
In October of 2016, when Keisha began dating 22-year-old Damian O'Neill, she thought she had found all that and more.
Keisha and Damian started dating, and it was a whirlwind romance.
The couple's relationship took off shortly after meeting through mutual friends.
She would talk about Damian a lot. They were always together. I've been waiting for a man like you for a long time. Coming!
Keisha was also attracted to the fact that Damian showed genuine affection toward her son.
The first time I saw him, she brought him to the house. He sat there in a chair. Daddy. I said, there's got to be something for that little boy to be calling you daddy. Oh, yes, ma'am. I love kids. I love kids.
That was work today.
While Keisha's family felt things were moving too fast, they saw the effort Damian was making to be a good man to Keisha and Caden.
He did seem like he was invested in Caden. He did seem like he was invested in their relationship. I do remember him telling her, I'm going to be able to provide, I'm going to buy you this, buy you that. He wanted to take care of Keisha and Caden. He wanted to be the man in the family.
By the spring of 2017, it looked like Keisha's dreams of true love were finally coming true.
He was going to buy Keisha a ring, and she was ecstatic.
But on the morning of April 27th, 2017, the future Damian and Keisha were planning is shattered when police believe they found Keisha Smith's body.
One of the investigators, Scott Edwards, recognized the victim immediately.
She had been shot multiple times, and whoever killed her attempted to hide her body with trash bags.
Captain Scott Edwards has the difficult task of alerting his wife, Cherie, who was also an investigator with the Sheriff's Department and close friend of Keisha's mother.
He knew that I was extremely close to Keisha and her family. Send me a picture. I need to be sure.
I'll send one.
At the scene, Captain Edwards snaps a picture of the victim's face and texts it to his wife.
When he sent me the photograph, I immediately recognized it to be Keisha.
Yeah.
You're right. It's her.
But who would want Keisha dead? For Detective Cherie Edwards, answering that question has become personal.
I knew that without a shadow of a doubt, whether I was the lead investigator or not, that I would make sure that everything possible was going to be done on this case for justice for her family.
In the spring of 2017, it looked as if single mother Keisha Smith had finally found true love with 22-year-old Damian O'Neill.
She was over the moon. She couldn't be happier.
Damian purchased an engagement ring for Keisha.
They was gonna get married.
But on April 27th, 2017, workers find her body dumped behind a building outside her hometown of Marianna, Florida.
She was dead and had been murdered.
Investigators from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department scour the scene for clues.
We did determine that Keisha had been shot multiple times, and there were some tire tracks in there. Of course, the people in and out of the facility that morning was covering up other tracks leading in and out. So, very little evidence, really.
Identifying who it was and knowing that she was shot, that's all they had initially.
With little evidence at the crime scene, detectives suspect the murder occurred elsewhere.
There was no signs of a struggle in the surrounding area. You just had a body that was put there.
The workers who called 911 offer no additional leads.
A typical murder investigation, you go to a crime scene, there's going to be more clues than that. But in this one, there just wasn't. Anything that would indicate how she got there, what happened.
Detectives' next step is to figure out just how long ago Keisha had been left in the field.
Keisha was close to her family, and they had not reported her missing. Between that and the condition of Keisha's body, police believe she had only been dead for a few hours.
Soon after, Sheriff's investigator Cherie Edwards knocks on the door of Keisha's mother, Princella White.
Cherie has known Princella and the rest of the family for years. My daughter grew up with her kids, knowing her kids, and we just got to be really good friends. We need to talk.
Investigator Edwards delivers the awful news that her friend's daughter is dead.
I'm so sorry. I'll never forget the look on her face, the heartache in her heart. This was devastating, absolutely devastating for her.
No! Oh my God! I was like, no.
It was her screaming and crying, me trying to calm her down, and me telling her we'll get through this, whatever she needed I would do.
Through her grief, Princella's thoughts turn to her 4-year-old grandson.
Oh God. Where's Kate? She didn't know where Keisha's son was at.
The fear spikes immediately. Where's the boy? Is he okay? Could this have been a violent kidnapping?
Where's my grandbaby? Priscilla did not need another heartbreak. And I knew I had to find Caden. All right, let's go.
Investigator Edwards and Princella race to Keisha's apartment in search of the child. And when they arrive, Princella's heart sinks a second time.
After police found Keisha, they sent a car to her apartment.
We get over to her apartment, and I see a state vehicle parked out there. Onlookers gathering around, and more police come.
All right, the victim has a 4-year-old son. Check with the neighbors, see if anyone knows where he is.
We kind of spanned out one door to door in the apartment complex where Keisha lives.
While deputies canvass the building, Princella places a call to her grandson's daycare.
They say he was not at the daycare.
The news sends Princella into a panic, reaching out to friends and family, desperate to find her grandchild.
We couldn't find him. We were calling, we were making Facebook posts, we were putting pictures everywhere. We thought we'd lost him too.
After noticing the police car in front of Keisha's apartment, a woman emerges from a neighboring complex to see what's going on. With her is Caden.
Oh my God, thank you, baby. God, thank you, Lord, thank you.
This lady stayed in the complex that would keep kids.
Okay. The child was there and he was okay.
I got him and I hugged him. And we went back up to Keisha's apartment and he says, Nana, where my mom at? I don't see her car. I said, I don't know, baby. I don't know.
While Princella takes her grandson upstairs, Investigator Edwards questions the woman who'd been caring for him.
She tells Detective Edwards that Keisha dropped Kaden off at her apartment the night before.
She had not actually told that individual where she was going, but basically, that was the last time she was seen.
So what time was that?
That was around 10.
The neighbor said that Keisha was supposed to be back in about an hour or so, but she never returned.
I called her a bunch of times, but she didn't answer, so I just kept them overnight.
Was anybody with her?
No, and she drove her own car.
Okay, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Detective Edwards knows finding Keisha's vehicle may provide crucial evidence of finding her killer's identity.
Brake put a bolo out. We're looking for the car.
Back at the station, investigators hope Keisha's family can shed some light on where she may have been going that night. And they quickly learn some troubling information.
Keisha and Damien, they've been having some problems. Weren't they engaged?
That's what Keisha thought.
The family informed investigators that engagement was off.
Keisha found out that he was seeing someone else.
The girl's name was Rachel Barnes. According to Princella, Damien had actually proposed to her instead of Keisha.
Keisha was livid when she found out.
Could Damien's change of heart have had something to do with Keisha's murder?
Keisha was getting into it with this girl that was all on social media.
They were kind of feuding on tags.
Now detectives must wonder, has Rachel and Keisha's feud taken a deadly turn?
Hours after Keisha Smith was found murdered in the quiet rural town of Marianna, Florida, news of her death has traveled fast.
All I could think of is, why would somebody do something like that? And then just leave her out there like that. That's horrible.
I couldn't even grasp who could have did this because of just her loving spirit. I just wanted to know why.
Detectives are beginning to suspect a love triangle may have led to the crime.
Keisha and her boyfriend, Damien, had recently split after Keisha found out that Damien was also seeing a girl named Rachel and had apparently proposed to her.
It turns out both women was feuding via text and social media.
Hoping to learn more, detectives turn to the object of the rivalry, 22-year-old Damien O'Neill.
Once we learned that's who the boyfriend was, of course, he was one we needed to speak with.
He was aware they were looking for him, and so he came right in and cooperated.
Thanks for coming in to talk with us.
Sure. It's just crazy, you know?
He had just found out when the family did.
We understand you and Keisha were getting pretty serious.
Yeah, but things sort of got complicated.
He did not know he was in a relationship at some point with Keisha.
What happened?
Well, I started getting serious with someone else. We're getting married, actually.
Keisha believed you were going to marry her.
Keisha thought he was going to propose to her, and then he turned and ended up giving the ring to some other girl.
She must have taken that pretty hard.
Yeah, she was mad. And she started getting into it with Rachel.
It was the typical go between two girls fighting over a guy.
Did Rachel ever threaten Keisha?
Nah, never anything like that.
She said she wanted the fact that, yeah, I'm going to be his wife, and you're not.
So you don't think Rachel had anything to do with this?
She couldn't have. She was with me.
His statement was that he was with Rachel in Panama City.
Panama City is a little over an hour from where Keisha's body was found.
She was with you the whole night?
Yeah.
And you were in Panama City the entire time?
Yes, with my brother Sean.
He had some brothers that lived in Bay County, and it was his brother's house that he was at.
While it's too early to know if Damien is telling the truth, detectives have nothing to hold him on.
There is no evidence to point in his direction. We let him go, and we just continued to work the case.
Next, detectives bring in Damien's fiancée, 21-year-old Rachel Barnes.
The girlfriend obviously was someone we were looking at. I mean, everybody, was still considered a person of interest until we could get it down to the wire and see who we thought the person was.
Questioned by detectives, Rachel doesn't deny knowing Keisha.
They were running the same circle.
But it all changed when Keisha found out Rachel was seeing Damien behind her back.
She told us Keisha confronted her about it via text message. They had it out. She never denied her disagreement with Keisha over Damien.
However, Rachel's account of their disagreement tracks pretty closely with what Damien had already told the detectives.
Rachel also offers up the same alibi as Damien.
Rachel swore to investigators she and Damien had been in Panama City all night on the 26th into the 27th.
She said she would never wish that on anybody.
At this point, detectives aren't convinced Rachel's conscience is clear.
She might have had a motive because here's Damien's old girlfriend, Keisha Smith, and him still having a relationship.
However, when detectives follow up with Damien's brother Sean, he confirms the couple's alibi.
With the alibi verbally confirmed, that obviously puts detectives at an impasse.
Early the following morning, the investigation gains momentum when the Jackson County Sheriff's Department locates Keisha's missing car in a park.
They immediately calls us. We get the vehicle towed in and we start doing an search of the vehicle.
While CSIs sweep the vehicle, detectives also receive Keisha's autopsy report and make a shocking revelation.
Keisha Smith was 8 weeks pregnant.
Detectives investigating the murder of 25-year-old Keisha Smith have just learned that she was 2 months pregnant when she was killed.
This is a tragic discovery, and it makes the detectives wonder if this is further proof that the love triangle between Damien, Rachel, and Keisha had boiled over.
It's hard to believe this would be a reason to murder someone, but it could be the result of a jealous rage.
Detectives also learn what kind of murder weapon they need to find.
During the autopsy, the medical examiner recovers 3 .38 caliber bullets from Keisha's body,
which was valuable evidence, obviously, to be compared if we ever found the firearm.
A search of Keisha's car, which Marietta police found abandoned in a park, proves less promising.
We did not find anything in the vehicle of evidentiary value.
With no leads stemming from Keisha's car, detectives hope to learn more about her pregnancy from her friend, Zaisha.
Sometimes friends know things that parents don't know, and this case was personal for detectives, so they decided to see if Keisha's friends knew about the pregnancy.
Did you know?
I found out about a month ago, maybe a little more. She texted me and told me she hadn't been feeling too good and that she was late.
Zaisha had urged her friend to take a pregnancy test.
It was positive. She was pregnant. So I asked her how she felt about it. She said, I don't know, right now I'm kind of freaking out. My emotions are everywhere. But I'm still excited.
Zaisha tells detectives that she shared her friend's excitement.
She always said she wanted another one. She already had a boy. She wanted a little girl. I was hoping maybe she got her girl this time.
To investigators, it seems more than a coincidence that a month after learning she was pregnant, Keisha Smith was dead.
Do you know who the father was? It was Damien. Or at least that's what Keisha told me.
She was pretty adamant that it was in fact his baby.
That's why she was so excited. She thought it was some kind of sign.
I don't think she got intentionally pregnant, but when she did get pregnant, she thought the baby was gonna fix everything. She felt she could, win him back.
Perhaps Damien's fiancée, Rachel Barnes, felt the same way and feared the pregnancy would pull Damien away.
From Rachel's perspective, she and Damien are getting serious. They are looking to build a new life together in Panama City. They're making plans to get married. Maybe Rachel saw this as a threat.
Could she be responsible? Certainly, females are not an exception to being killers.
And soon a new discovery shines a more suspicious light on Rachel Barnes.
In a bizarre stroke of luck, in early May, police in Panama City found Rachel's car on the side of the road.
Florida tag, George India Union, Frank 01.
They ran the tag place and they come back to her.
Rachel Barnes, you want to check it out?
Yep. It was sort of abandoned, so they kind of made them suspicious.
What officers find inside the car raises more red flags for Mariana detectives.
It looked like there were efforts made to clean the car with bleach or some type of cleaner.
It definitely had the appearance of an attempt to conceal a crime.
Murder are beginning to suspect that 21-year-old Rachel Barnes is the one who pulled the trigger.
Rachel was engaged to Keisha's ex, Damien O'Neill.
There had been some issues between the two women, arguing over text messages and social media.
Detectives wonder if news that Keisha was pregnant with Damien's child pushed Rachel over the edge.
When they found Rachel's car, there was some items in it that kind of made them suspicious.
It was on the side of the road, the back seat covered in bleach, and only 6 days after Keisha's murder, detectives are very suspicious.
Hoping to put Rachel and her car in Mariana on the night of the murder, detectives pull her phone records.
There was nothing in the records to indicate that Rachel left Panama City the night of the murder.
However, it doesn't prove her innocence just yet.
She could have turned her phone off or left it behind.
Still hoping to place Rachel near the scene of the murder, detectives begin canvassing local businesses.
We're a small area, so we have a few hot spots that most people go to.
Detectives focus their efforts on the strip of gas stations near the interstate.
Several businesses have video camera, and it's a high traffic area.
Reviewing the surveillance footage from one of the gas stations on the night of April 26th, it looks like they've hit the jackpot.
They did see Rachel's car.
It pulled into the gas station around 10 p.m. on the night of the murder, right around the time Keisha left her apartment.
Just as detectives believe they have the proof they need, the investigation takes an unexpected turn.
They looked at the video from the store and saw Damien O'Neill walking in there.
That's damning evidence.
It means that Damien O'Neill's not telling the truth, and it means that he could have done this murder.
With Damien's alibi in tatters, detectives attempt to bring him in, but are unable to locate him.
He started to invade us and laid low with different family members in Bay County to avoid us.
However, detectives do find Rachel in a local hospital.
Rachel had a medical issue right after the first time they talked to her.
After consulting a doctor, detectives are allowed to bring Rachel in for a second interview.
They confronted her that, you're not telling us the truth. He obviously wasn't with you all night in Panama City.
You knew that he was in Mariana the night that Keisha was murdered, didn't you? Yes.
She said that she lied the first day because she didn't know what he had gotten her involved in.
Look, I didn't know he was going to kill her.
He told her to just say I was with you all night, without really explaining where he was.
He just borrowed my car. Told me he was going to Mariana to take care of some business. What time did he leave? 9 o'clock. Maybe a little before.
Since it's an hour's drive from Panama City, Rachel's account appears to line up with the gas station video showing Damien in Mariana at 10 p.m.
When I found out she was dead, I was afraid I'd be next if I tell you the truth.
She was terrified because she knew what kind of person Damien was.
When detectives ask about Keisha's pregnancy, Rachel's response isn't what they were expecting.
Did you know that Keisha was pregnant? Oh my God. Damien, what did you do?
She denied died knowing that Keisha was pregnant with Damien's child.
You have to keep in mind, too, is she doing this because she fears we're going to find out later that she was involved?
On May 9th, with proof Damien lied about his alibi, detectives decide to try their luck by interviewing the one who vouched for him, his brother, Sean.
They figured they could press him and maybe get him to give up his brother.
Man, I already told you. Damien was with me.
We know he was here. We know about the baby. Your brother killed a pregnant woman. You want to go down for that?
He started worrying about himself and his own charges. Eventually, he said that Damien might have done something bad.
Okay. I'll tell y'all what I know.
Damien's brother goes on to explain what happened on April 26th.
He was at my place. He took his girl's car. Came back a few hours later. Came into my bedroom.
I need you to get rid of this.
What is this?
Damien had given him the gun. Damien had disclosed Keisha was pregnant. I think that he knew what Damien had done.
What did you do?
Just get rid of it.
Damien, what did you do? Just grab it. I didn't know what to do. He's my brother. So I hid the gun.
Where's the gun?
You gotta put something on the table for me first.
His whole concern was wanting to have immunity if he showed them where the gun was.
That set this investigation in motion. From having circumstantial evidence to having something we could actually work with.
Cherie and I are real good friends. She called me, she said, we got a lead. She said, we got boots on the ground. We're going to follow this lead.
Based on Damien's brother's statement, police are able to recover the gun from a sewer drain in Panama City.
The gun thrown up a lot of bags.
It was a revolver, a silver-handled revolver at 38 with a white grip.
That's the same caliber as the bullets recovered during Keisha's autopsy.
While investigators wait for results, they shift their focus to finding their suspected shooter.
Now there is a full-on manhunt for Damien O'Neill.
On May 10th, 2017, detectives with the Jackson County, Florida Sheriff's Department believe they're finally on the verge of solving the murder of 25-year-old single mom, Keisha Smith.
Detectives suspect that Keisha's ex-boyfriend, Damien O'Neill, murdered Keisha in hopes of hiding the pregnancy from his fiancée.
Detectives now have what they suspect is the murder weapon, but they still need to find Damien.
We were finally advised Damien was at a house in Bay County.
Before the sun rises on the morning of May 11th, detectives and deputies surround the house.
Sheriff's Department, open up!
Detectives find Damien inside.
He was sitting there playing a video game.
now!
Damien O'Neill is taken into custody without incident. Back at the station, investigators give him a chance to come clean.
We read him his rights. I said, Damien, you want to talk? He said no.
You got nothing to say? In my statement and thing.
Detectives tried tipping their hand to persuade Damien.
You just don't shut yourself. There's a gun wrapped up in the bag. Lift the gun out with the split shield. That's the bag and stuff to the two bags. Good? He says you don't want to make no statement. Texas Edwards here has got some news for you.
It's a bittersweet moment for Cherie Edwards when she formally arrests Damien.
Putting my cuffs on lost it. Not completely, but I teared up. It was very personal for me. That was my last piece of justice for Keisha.
Once Damien is placed in a cell, Cherie Edwards and her husband race to give Keisha's mother the news.
That's gratefully they personally came to the house and said, hey, we got him. We got him.
On May 15th, Damien O'Neill is indicted for the second-degree murder of Keisha Smith.
However, despite the fact that Keisha was carrying Damien's unborn child, he only faces a single murder charge.
The length of time she had been pregnant did not meet the criteria by statute to pursue the unborn child's death.
When the results from the ballistics test come in, investigators are now confident they can secure a conviction.
And after ballistics compared the bullets from Keisha's body to that weapon, it was the murder weapon.
The case against Damien is so strong that on May 22nd, he decides to make a full confession.
Things just got out of hand, didn't they, Damien? Is that a yes? Can you say it?
Yes, sir.
Damien admits to meeting Keisha on the night of April 26th in an empty park on the outskirts of town.
She got in his car and they drove.
Where was y'all going? Was you out there in that field behind the barn?
But Damien says their talk started to get heated when he revealed that things between them were over for good.
Okay. What were y'all arguing about?
Damien, I love you!
Keisha, it's over.
What Damien tells detectives next is completely unexpected.
You're not leaving me, Damien. I won't let you.
Keisha, stop. You put a blade to my protocol, and then what did you do?
Keisha?
What happened after you shot her? You just put her right there on the grass.
In light of his full confession, Damien elects to plead guilty to second-degree murder and avoid a jury trial.
I was relieved to hear that he was going to plead for Priscilla's sake.
It gave them closure without having to sit through a trial.
However, police and prosecutors believe that Damien's claim of self-defense was meant to cover his true motive.
I think they met and they got to arguing over this child.
I told you to get rid of it.
Why? Don't you feel anything for the baby? For me?
She thought that it was gonna bring them together.
Can't you see? You're ruining everything?
No!
He just was not going to let her have that baby. And he just snapped.
That's very frustrating for the family because they just want to know, why couldn't you resolve it some other way? And he would never say.
During victim impact statements at the sentencing hearing, Keisha's mother gets her chance to tell Damien exactly what she thinks of him.
I told him he's just the son of Satan.
She said, we want him to sit and think of what he did to our little girl and unborn grandchild for the rest of his life.
If I had my choice, I'd paint a picture on every wall, every 4 walls, and make sure he see him every day.
The judge sentences Damien to life in prison.
When they revealed that the sentence was live. It was like a weight had been lifted off of us.
It won't take back what happened, but at least he's not going free.
But no prison term will ever make up for what Damien took from the world.
I want people to remember Keisha's life and how she lived. Her smile.
Even now, I can close my eyes and I can just see her face and that sweet, genuine smile.
I miss her every day. It's not a day, not a second, not a minute, not an hour that goes by that I don't think about her. All she wanted was someone to love her back.
Okay.